Three, two, one, poem party. Welcome. Another Zoom edition. We're still bound to our dwellings as much as possible. We are forbidden from breathing upon others, which I will do transgressively once I'm let out of this cage. Yeah, how you guys doing? Yeah.
Good.
They call me Mr. Brightside.
Things are good. I started reading Moby Dick.
Ooh, the warm weather, is that bringing it upon you?
Oh, I guess so.
He actually Michael was like, I don't know enough about whaling and the industry of the era.
I was lacking in that knowledge.
Is there a textbook? And somebody was like, actually.
I got a book for you.
Well, I think back to the summer when you, Tyler, were reading that mass market copy.
Oh, I love it. I love it so much. I love Moby Dick.
Yeah. I'm like 40 pages in. It's really good.
Yeah.
In my mind, it's kind of like Infinite Jest. It's like one of those books that you want to read and is like an ideal for, it's like a goal that you should complete, but for some reason I've just never actually done it.
Yeah.
Well, books that feel like their undertakings are, for some people, that's like, crack to them. They're like, yeah, I want to do the challenge. I want to do the eating challenge, and then I want to read it.
Yeah.
Well,
there's something athletic about it too. Like there's like an athleticism to reading Moby Dick that could come off as pretentious.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Like
I mean, tied up with that is like Harold Bloom calling it, the greatest poem ever written.
Yeah,
along those lines. That
Did
might
he
not be a
ever
direct
read
quote.
Casey at Bat? How can he say that Casey at Bat is in?
I didn't expect it to be so like irreverent and funny.
Yeah. Yeah. No, that's the like when you teach, incredible things to high school, like in high school, it's like, I don't know, it all just gets leveled to everybody expecting it to be this droll slog, and it's not.
Yeah.
It's
like got this very like funny sense of irony.
Yeah.
Of like dramatic irony.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I always sort of, try and like proselytize it as, this is like the perfect time to read a book like that, just in terms of like the era, because now it like more so than in like, let's say, 2002 or whatever, it's just so easy to look up everything in there and not be lost, and like to have a more deep experience of it. Like it's just so easy to like because there's so many things in that book, it's like so.
I wouldn't be surprised. I wouldn't be surprised if there are like universities or organizations who have created like indexes of Moby Dick. Like I know that they've done that with Joyce and like
honestly the only way to name.
What's the name of that, where you have a book where there's all of the references in that? It's like it's
no
it's not
fear Shakespeare.
No. No, there's
annotated?
No, there's a word for like a separate like academic edition of something where it'll literally have every word in that book in alphabetical order, and no, like it'll literally be a list of the words used in the book and how frequently and where those words are used.
That's not a compendium, is it?
No,
I must have avoided that.
Yeah.
I have to say the Ulysses Companion is that I read. I can't remember who put it out or whatever, but it was really helpful to have on the ready, because who am I to know that this is a pun based on a, on a 15th century Italian bathroom graffiti or something like that. Like, I don't know that. Like,
right. You
So
didn't
I have
take
I have
that.
my little cheater next to me, and
Yeah.
also Joyce would have been an insufferable person to know. Because he would have been making jokes. He was like, you know, like the old German. And I'd be like,
You don't
"Fuck
get
off,
it?
man."
Yeah.
However, when it's explained to me, I rather like it, and I appreciate his wit more when I don't have to, like, you know.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I read Ulysses with the Don Gifford annotated reader's guide, which is like, I think that's the most well-known one. It's a book longer than Ulysses that kind of does what you were talking about, Tyler, that takes words and phrases and gives like historical literary context to them. And it was really great. I don't think I would have been able to have the experience I had with Ulysses without that.
Agreed. I think I mean, I similarly, I didn't use this edition, I didn't use that one, but I used another one similar to it, and I wouldn't have appreciated it. Excuse me, without that.
And also the Richard Elmen biography of Joyce.
Yes, I did read that.
Insane.
Yeah.
It starts like 500 years before Joyce was born, like 400 or 500 years before Joyce was born, and goes into like the generational, like like the generational history that led up to Joyce's birth. And that's like the first like 200 pages of the biography.
Yeah. That's like Hellfire. The Jerry Lee Lewis biography.
Oh yeah.
Hellfire begins is like they were sharecroppers, and you know his like great it's like the Bible. It's like
Right. Oh God. Yeah, I could never do that kind of academic work. Like anything that requires that, it's like, I'm sorry, you got the wrong guy.
Like they give you the map. They give you the map of how to finish the project, and you wind up somewhere like all the way in the fucking islands that they didn't even know existed.
Yeah, they'll find. Yeah.
Well, if you're
in
like
a holler. Sorry.
If you're a reasonable and like non-academic editor, and you get that manuscript, you're like, all right, so these first 200 pages are just gonna go.
Yeah.
You could start with his father, maybe.
Yeah, I think your book starts here.
Yeah.
on page 417.
It's like the yeah, and also all of his stuff about his like great grandchildren who are like club promoters. Like that can go too. We don't care about it.
But in the same sense, like, you know, I think there's so much that would be cut from Moby Dick today.
Oh yeah, I was thinking that.
Yeah, like there's no way.
Syntax in there. It's like he adds so many like transitional poeticisms that are just like, you don't need to tell us.
Well, wasn't Hawthorne was not successful in his lifetime, right?
Yeah.
Melville.
Or yeah, excuse me. Jesus. Great. How many minutes are we into this?
It's on point. It's on point. Because I have no reference point for Moby Dick either.
Weren't those guys like lovers or something?
Actually, not exactly.
If you read my slash fiction online, they were actually on the rocky crag. They.
You have a DeviantArt account that's like
I do.
entirely devoted to Hawthorne and Melville.
Their pipes bumped into each other as they were going in for their
and you get your fan base gets in like huge conflicts with the Coleridge / Wordsworth.
Well, not just them, but also the supernatural people. Because I did a crossover, and the supernatural people. They're like Hawthorne's not hot.
It's dedicated to Hawthorne.
Yes. Herman Melville.
So he's there in the beginning. He's in the frontispiece. Frontispiece. Frontispiece.
This is already great content for our listeners.
You know, the Michael's Moby Dick undertaking reminds me of the Tolstoy Together undertaking that a lot of people are doing online.
Carl Phillips is doing.
Oh boy.
Warren
Interesting.
I think Lit Hub is sponsoring it, or they're putting like the sort of reading guide together, where a lot of people are reading
War and Peace
Tolstoy together.
or
It's War and Peace, right? Yeah.
or Anna Karenina.
I think it's War and Peace.
Yeah, War and Peace.
I think part of the idea is sort of I mostly just see the hashtag Tolstoy Together, but the idea is like, you know, you've been saying you're going to read this book,
Right.
Read it
Here's
now.
your chance. Yeah.
Which brings me to my current reading. I just finished Walking to Martha's Vineyard, which was amazing. I said that it was depressing me a little bit, but once you get that last quarter, it's really beautiful, and it's like devotional Catholic poetry.
Yeah.
And very uplifting, and very Lenten too. It's very of the time. We're recording this on Good Friday.
There's his book of poems F.
I don't think you've mentioned yet. This is Franz Wright.
Franz Wright.
Is really wonderful. Also, I read Walking to Martha's
F is
Vineyard. I read Walking to Martha's Vineyard at Columbia, and then found F in the library, and it's one of the books that I never returned.
You're putting it on record now.
Library detectives are going
to grade with it.
I might never be able to go back into Columbia's library again.
I don't think we talked about this on the podcast. I think that was in a meeting in an office where we talked about this.
Yeah.
And I got mad at you for not returning books to Columbia's library.
As a former employee of the library.
As a former employee.
It was both intentional and not intentional.
As someone who many times tried to find books in that library, only to find them stolen. And
I paid for them. Way more than I needed to.
You're in debt for them. You haven't paid for them.
No.
You haven't paid for them at all.
I love when people steal from like the rental model thing, like a library, or a friend of mine. We went to Family Video in 2012, and she stole the Patriot. She went to the video store. Like, I will never return this.
The Mel Gibson movie?
Yeah, with Mel Gibson. Where he's like, you know, taking 1776 into his own hands.
Yeah, he's like Mark Wahlberg on 9/11.
Yeah,
Mel Gibson on the Revolution. But I just remember going, and she was like, "I'm not giving this back." And she paid like $1.50 for it. She probably had a discount from having an A on her report card or something.
Yeah,
it's really
very good. You can check anything out from our true history section.
The funny thing about Family Video and Blockbuster is that Blockbuster went out of business. Family Video still exists and was, as of 10 years ago, expanding. The difference is Family Video teamed up with what's it called, Little Caesars, and they tended to go to lower income areas. So they definitely made a place of like, this is an affordable night in, right, for, you know, people. Blockbuster didn't do that, and the only other difference is that Family Video had a pornography section behind a beaded curtain, and Blockbuster did not.
Classic.
So Family Video made all of their money on
entrepreneurial genius.
So you pick up a couple of porn flicks, you get a hot and ready.
And that is genius marketing too. It's like, it's Family Video.
Yeah.
If somebody sees your car in the parking lot, it's not like the, you know, XXX adult video store on the side of the highway.
I'm renting Jack Frost.
Yeah. What do you want from me? This is Jingle. I'm getting Jingle All the Way.
Michael Keaton becomes a snowman. No one has sex in this movie.
I still have a Blockbuster VHS.
Well, there's no place to even return it anymore, Alex.
No.
So
Well, no, I bought it after they shut down. I bought it
yeah.
at like a used video store for like $2, and it's
okay.
it's Jackie Chan's Rumble in the Bronx.
Oh, that's a good one too, actually.
Great one.
I bought a bunch of movies for my dad. When he works out, he used to put on like just movies in the background, and I asked him what he liked, and he was like, just like dumb action stuff because I don't pay attention. I just like the energy of it. And so I went to Blockbuster when it was closing out.
It's like the same. It's like instead of putting on Cher, it's like the same idea.
Putting on Cher?
Who puts on Cher?
I feel like I heard, wait. Didn't somebody here talk about putting on Cher while they were working out? Michael, did you run to Cher?
No.
I'm gonna say you did. Let's just say you did. Maybe that was a comedian. I don't know.
I was not. It wasn't me. I listened to plenty of embarrassing stuff, but not Cher.
Yeah,
I don't know that I could name more than one Cher song. I don't think. I only know that one.
Yeah,
that's actually a pretty good one, but it's not right for working out. I don't think. But anyway, so
yeah.
I went.
I think that was the funny part.
Blockbuster was oh, shut the fuck up. Blockbuster was going out of business, and so all of their DVDs were like $1 or $2, and I bought a bunch of movies, many action movies, many of them starring like pro wrestlers that were trying to break into acting, but not John Cena.
Like
but that kind of guy. Or like Jean-Claude Van Damme in like 2003 movie.
Jean-Claude Van Damme is a great. His movies are great. They're great.
Are there any movies that feature both him and Chris Benoit? That would be like the sort of French connection.
Chris Benoit wasn't really in movies, was he?
Well, I don't know. Wrestling people who I have no idea. Yeah. All I know is Triple H, Chris Benoit, The Rock, The Undertaker.
I'm called Steve Austin.
The Big Show.
Who's that guy who wears the leather mask?
Oh, was that The Undertaker? No, Mankind.
Mankind. But yeah. Anyway,
right, so Franz Wright.
Yeah, I love that book. But then
he kind of looks like he could be a professional wrestler at certain points in his life.
Franz Wright?
Yeah. He kind of had he's got the head for it.
Yeah. He looks like he's been cut by razors. I think that you'd like to say about Franz Wright that he did a reverse heel turn. He was a heel, and then he became a good guy.
Yeah.
He had his days.
Yeah.
There's a poem in F called Dedication, and it's one of my favorite poems, and it has one of my favorite opening lines, and it's something like, "It's true I never write, but I'll gladly die with you."
Yeah.
And it's just
amazing poem.
He's a genius. Actually, I don't have the book in front of me, but I think it was Time Out New York wrote a blurb on the back, or the review is included on the copy that Michael lent me, about just something about how like this is a man who has returned to grace and still can't believe like the grace that he's found, and like that's what's so beautiful about it is like there's a man who came back from like the underworld and is like still like luxuriating in like in the light.
There's a new documentary out of the tapes in the last year or two of his life.
Was he Mankind?
This is the picture I was thinking of.
Yeah.
Like,
well, what you're thinking of is he kind of looks like there's a certain quality where he looks like what's his face from the movie The Wrestler.
Mickey Rourke.
Mickey Rourke.
In the last year or two of his life, he kept these tapes, like tape recorders of himself talking, like at all hours of the night. And this person made a documentary out of it with that as audio and like visuals of places that he writes about. And I'm interested. I've heard some of it. It's pretty, like, some of it's pretty disturbing because he's, I think, medicated in some of it.
Yeah.
Yeah,
but,
I remember some of those videos from. Well, there was yeah.
Wasn't Lucy? Didn't Lucy know him or like was?
Oh yeah.
Good friends with him.
Mm-hmm.
My sense was that they were very close, and she, felt very close to him, but that their relationship was not as close at the end.
Yeah.
I don't know. But I don't know.
Have you read the Dive Dapper interview that he did?
Yeah.
Really before the end of his life. One of the things that I think is really sweet in that is he talks about how Paul Muldoon was the only person that would sit with him at the Dodge Poetry Festival.
Yeah.
And everybody's treating him like a pariah when he was like talking shit about the MFA, and then was like, oh wait, my entire livelihood, even if I'm not teaching at an MFA, is reading at my friend's MFA program. And so going to the Dodge Festival and being a pariah, and Paul Muldoon being the only person who was like, all right, I'll eat lunch. It was like, it's so high school.
Yeah, it's so strange. Yeah.
So anyways, I mean, if you have more to say about Franz Wright, I'd love to continue talking, but I only mentioned him because now that I finished him, I've started reading Actual Air by David Berman.
Oh yeah.
Which is a book that has been recommended to me since I have written poetry. And I never read it, and it was out of print, and it was hard to find, and it's expensive when you do find it. And I just bit the bullet because I'm here, and I bought an ebook copy of it, which I hate doing for poetry. It fucks the lines up.
Well, considering that on Amazon right now, the Kindle version is $9.99, the hardcover is $200, and the paperback is $127.75.
They just put it. They literally, like, a couple months ago put it back into print, like right after he died.
And yet,
I saw it in a bookstore.
Look, I've got Mr. Bezos on the line, and this was going to be the second half of the podcast, but I think he's been waiting long enough. Let's bring him on, everybody. Jeff Bezos.
Hi everybody. I'm going to open up several additional servers so that you can all get Actual Air by David Berman. No delay, no timeout.
He's such a strange guy. I watched the Frontline? There's like a PBS, maybe it was a Frontline documentary that they just did on. Oh, did we lose Chris?
No, I'm here. I'm gonna step away for a moment. I'll be right back.
Okay, he's going completely naked.
He's gonna pick his nose.
Yeah, but yeah. There's like a PBS Frontline documentary or something along those lines, and just it's kind of going into the history of Amazon and like Amazon's practices and all that sort of stuff. And Jeff Bezos is strange, very strange guy.
You mean when he called his mistress a live girl? You know about that?
No, that's very upsetting phraseology, though.
he was sexting her, and he referred to her as a live girl.
That's really upsetting.
I think, like, you're like a vibrant woman.
Yeah, but very easily fit into a conspiratorial context, like conspiratorial frame, when you're like when you're worth $128 billion.
Mm-hmm.
$168 billion?
Too much. And he's not helping anybody with it.
Yeah.
In my opinion.
Yeah. Yep. Well, here he is. Let's welcome him.
He just got glasses, or he just got braces, and he has.
Here he is. He's here as this is my professional wrestling character.
Zipperman or something.
Zipperman.
I've been reading this book by Adam Nicholson that I think I mentioned to you guys. It's a literary biography of the summer that. Welcome back.
What did you do?
Did you fill your Prosecco cup?
Yeah, I did.
No, I believe
I can't get the angle quite right to
it
like
looks
do a high.
perfect. It looks perfect.
Yeah.
No, it's a literary biography of the summer that William Wordsworth and Samuel Taylor Coleridge spent in Somerset, England, where they wrote the lyrical ballads in their mid-20s. And it's really good. I like really,
Fuck. Younger than us.
yeah.
But
Feels good.
it's like
It's
in those
really-
times it was like dog years.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, they had a good another good like 15 or 20 years before they hit the dust.
So really, that's like our
Mhm.
40s.
Yeah.
Let's keep looking at it that way.
Yeah. And that'll also be when laudanum makes a comeback.
Yeah.
And we also have to beg a what did Coleridge have to do? He like had to beg a riverboat captain to give him an enema
Yeah.
as a result
he
of the constipation from his laudanum addiction.
Oh my god.
Horrifying.
Why did he have to pay? Why?
He also
He had such distressing constipation
But
while
why
on a
that
riverboat.
person?
no, he
Good question. The only person with
Captain.
well, imagine how rare tubes were back then.
I just imagine it's like one of those things like a captain of a ship can perform a wedding.
Yeah.
They're in
Yeah.
charge in muster, and
Yeah.
also you yeah.
And that riverboat captain was named Mark Twain.
Yeah, that was a certain Samuel
Samuel
Clemens, who many of you will know as Mark Twain.
He had to
famous
change
American
suits after
author.
that.
Yeah.
He had to change names after that.
no, but
Rough day.
Coleridge had toothaches his whole life. He was in constant pain his whole life. Was the impression I got from this.
Toothaches?
Toothaches, yeah.
God damn. To have toothaches and constipation your whole life, or most of your life.
Those are like
And then
that's
to have
just
to
so
walk
uncomfortable.
everywhere.
What'd you say? And then to have to walk everywhere.
Yeah. Like, oh, I have
Because there's no cars or bikes.
or carriages or whatever the fuck they.
Oh man. Yeah, I think we're
I
somehow
haven't
winning
used
this one. You may have written some work of genius.
Ooh.
What even is the modern day comparison to asking a riverboat? That'd be like asking the pilot, like,
Yeah. Yeah. It was like God, what it would be like asking the manager of a hostel.
it's like asking the manager of a Subway restaurant.
Yeah.
Sir.
But also like a riverboat, it's not like you're at sea. You know?
You're like 20 feet from the shore. Some of those are on like ropes.
Yeah, but then at the same time, like if you're going down the Danube, you know, there's probably like a good 300-mile stretch where it's just like, you know, like somebody like standing on the side, like Rasputin standing on the side of a river, you know, like that's the only person you see for 200 miles.
And that he bribed him.
Yeah.
Which is the future of American healthcare, by the way.
Yeah, seriously.
Please, manager of the Arby's.
Yeah.
Gig economy.
Help me
healthcare.
with my.
It's gonna be a gig economy.
Oh yeah. Yeah, he was definitely working that gig economy of the time, the patronage gig economy.
You know who was really into that was Joyce, actually.
Patronage or gigging?
The patronage gig economy.
Mm-hmm. I kind of
What?
want that to make a comeback. I feel like I could get a patron. Well, we could get a Patreon.
Yeah.
One day.
It's
What
more
was
elegant than having to write 100 sonnets about how hot some rich guy's son is.
Yeah.
You
I know that Beckett
You
was
should
one of
totally
his,
spread your seed, dude. You were so hot. Any girl would be lucky to have you, bro.
Yeah. I wonder if those sonnets were then like also like maybe they were only published after the son had used them, like and taken credit for them being like his own in courtship rituals.
Hopefully not. My mistress' eyes are nothing like the sun. He's like, her hair's like fucking wire, dude. It's coarse. Okay, I love her. Her hair's coarse.
This isn't going to work. Look, I can't pay you for these.
Did you guys ever take workshops with Richard Howard?
Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
Maybe that is the difference between the three of you and me.
Yeah.
I started a poem for Richard Howard about going to see him, like how nerve-wracking and how like wonderful it was to go see him.
Yep.
Just for context, if you were in Richard Howard's workshop, it would basically be once a week, 3 hours of him reading poems to you in his office, poems of his choosing, in no particular order. It would just
and
be
you
a
hadn't
book.
written them.
Yeah,
And you hadn't written them.
yeah, it would be like
Emily Dickinson wrote them.
yes, yeah, or like 3 hours of Wisława Szymborska, and it'd be like, oh, all right, and
then you'd have to call him at his house to make an appointment to go see him at his apartment. And I was there multiple times where he would get a phone call and he would, talk to them, and then he would write down the date by hand on his calendar. So every time I called him to make an appointment, I just imagined him doing it the way I saw him doing it when I was sitting on his couch waiting for him to go back to reading my poems. And he always read in silence. Like you were just sit there,
horrifying
like,
silence,
like terrified about what
with the occasional
thinking. He would make these little grunts, and you didn't know if that was a good thing or a bad thing, but you saw his pen moving. And you saw
I remember one time him looking at something on there and grimacing, and then looking over at me and going, and then going back to it and like crossing something out, and it's just like, oh.
He said to me once, he's like, he was reading one of my poems, and then he looked up and he's like, many people won't like these poems, but I like them.
I think that
like
to
the
me
biggest diss and compliment at the same time. It's like you're on the right track, but no one else is on that track.
Yeah, he basically like tripped me for 6 weeks with just like one line that it doesn't even sound that bad. It's just like the way he said it, and it just hurt so bad. Just like it was something to the effect of, these poems have found a very particular happiness. But with this grimace on his face of like complete disapproval, of like essentially saying like, these are private meditations.
I remember when that happened to you. It was a bad time.
Yeah. That was.
He also suggested using these really dated adverbs as like rhythmic fillers, like certainly and surely and
surely.
Yeah, surely. And like he recommended to use that word. He like recommended that I use that word on multiple occasions as a way to like add a beat here or add some kind of rhythmic gesture. Yeah, it was just like, no, like this is like not we're in the millennium. This is
Oh, I don't know. I mean, I use those myself.
Yeah.
But I feel like it fits in
Yeah.
that. And also, that's such a, like, to pat a line is a.
well, also you had the sense that he was like he was like speaking or seeing in code, because I never really
Like-
got the sense that he was
like he's looking into the
reading
Matrix.
poem.
when
Yeah,
he's-
yeah. Like he was never really like reading the poems. He was just listening to them and then
Mhm.
moving around the sounds to make them sound better. But I never got the impression that he like was fully reading them. And probably much to his credit, he has so many students and was seeing so many students that, you know, to invest himself in his students' work, all of his students' work, would be almost impossible.
Plus, he's like a man in his 90s. It's like, how could he possibly understand some of the references or the vagaries of your, like, 21st century 20s life?
Yeah, I always just
So it's like,
assumed that he knew everything. He just knew he knew it. That was just like the assumption that I worked from. Even if I was like, oh, maybe this is like a pop culture reference that he might not get, I just assumed that like he knew it all.
He knew, certainly in terms of literature and poetry, he knew
Yeah.
like anything you could bring up that wasn't like, you know, written yesterday, he would have had some exposure to in a way that was surprising to me.
yeah, but if he knows who Channing Tatum is, I would be
No, he certainly
stunned.
wouldn't.
My monocle would fall out of my.
No, that's his bathroom.
Yeah, that's in his bathroom.
And he would make sure that you saw his bathroom.
I know.
Yeah.
I helped him on multiple occasions, like not many, but like probably 2 or 3. He like asked me to go into the bathroom with him to like help him do something in there, like you know, like something that like like an attendant would do, or like
Hand him a towel when he was done washing his and give him a mint.
Where did you get that photo, Tyler?
The internet. I did not see if I could use it or not. But hey,
No, that's a great photo.
yeah.
Is that
It's,
Lucy? That's Lucy in the background.
Where?
In the left of his head.
Here?
Tyler, you need to get down farther.
Oh,
Yeah, that's Lucy. That's her.
Where? Oh, here.
Holding her head with both of her hands.
Oh, yeah.
She might be the only woman up there. After the one below her.
He's like,
That
oh,
is
how
Lucy
did I overlook
Barbarossa.
that? And he took her picture down. This is the men's room.
What an
And then
egregious
Robert
oversight.
Browning. That's Robert Browning to the right of him.
You're such an eccentric man.
Yeah.
Yeah, on the back of the toilet was his basket of different
Glasses.
colored eyeglasses.
And his hardbound belief that was all like fine, you know,
Yeah.
like if you had a problem with it, then surely you
It's
were
on you.
shaken.
That's
Hmm.
enough time has passed that I can tell the joke that I wrote when we were in the first year of our program, Alex. I don't know if you've ever heard this, but I wrote a joke about how Robert Lowell, Lowell's new book is called Lord Weary's Castle. Must have written it after a weekend at Richard Howard's house.
That's how Chris woke up with his prized racehorse's head in bed.
Yeah.
That guy's a killer. What can I say? No two ways about it. He has shooters out there.
I was in Dodge Hall in the office, and Richard had his own office in there, as you all know, but our listeners don't. And I was talking about somebody who wasn't Richard. About one of his contemporaries, and I was saying, and he was really good friends with Allen Ginsberg. And Richard overheard me and stopped and turned and glared at me. I think because he thought I was talking about him. because I had a conversation with him about Allen Ginsberg and he kind of insinuated that they were lovers at one point.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, that was scary.
Is that Alan?
Yeah,
No, that's
Gorilla.
Gertrude.
That's with his gorilla.
Or Mildred, right? Her name is
Mildred.
Yeah, Mildred.
Yeah.
His
Yeah.
dog Gide.
As in Renee?
Andre Gide.
Andre?
Although Mildred kind of looks like Alan at some of the harder times in his life. In fact, actually, if you read,
I was like, who are you talking about here?
I remember specifically that in On the Road, there are several references to Carlo Marx's ape-like appearance. There's a scene where after months of not seeing each other, Sal Paradise sees Carlo Marx in San Francisco dancing to jazz, and he keeps describing him as like an ape dancing for coins or something like that. I was like, I kind of see it in my head.
Wait, in the firing line episode, he's like, Ginsberg, we'll throw him to the lions.
Yeah.
And that's what Jack Kerouac looked like at the end of his life.
Yeah, this is a picture of Jack Kerouac as he appeared on Firing Line with William F. Buckley.
Shall we talk about our reading?
Oh yeah, we just did a reading. Or Michael and I
was also talking about the translation that we read, but we can talk about the reading that you and I did.
Oh, gotcha.
I'll just go on the record and say that it was mostly good, except for some of the people that I'm talking to right now. They were,
Oh yeah, we really kept it dragging.
You phoned it in.
Yep, literally. Thanks.
No, I'm just kidding. You guys were great. Everybody was great.
Literally on our phones.
Shout out to Bella for putting that on.
Mm-hmm.
It's a brilliant idea.
Bella DeCendi. Great job.
Great job.
Putting that together.
For people listening at this point.
I honestly find a lot of this sort of like tele-friendship extremely exhausting and also not fulfilling. But, and so I was a little bit, when I was like, all right, I'm going to log on and do this, I was sort of like apprehensive. But as soon as it started, I was like, fuck, I really needed this.
Yeah.
I really needed it.
I don't know if I mentioned this before in here, but I'm more social in this environment than I am otherwise. Like I'm hanging out with friends every single day, like now, and like I don't know, just like I feel very comfortable operating in a purely digital environment, or like not purely digital, obviously, but like this mediated experience is not negative to me. It's like very normal to me. I think, well, just because I grew up playing online video games so much that I did that more than I did actually talking to people in person. So.
Well, also because I'm sharing a space with other living human beings during the day.
You gotta get rid of them.
When everybody's working and stuff like that, we're not together. But in the evening, like that's when people start to sort of reconvene. Mm-hmm. Like we have a late meal and then we're sort of in a common space. And then I have to be like, sorry guys, I got to go spend an hour or two online with my people that aren't here. It seems sort of strange. Like there is a sort of alienating effect to that quality.
Yeah.
I do find it exhausting, but I do find it fulfilling as well.
It feels
different. It's just different.
It's just different.
You can feel the difference. You can feel the absence of the person you're talking to while you're talking to them.
Yeah.
But also to have to excuse yourself from actual living embodied human beings to go talk to disembodied people.
Yeah, I feel like that's alienating for those there and for yourself, I guess, if you care about other people and all that. But
well, that's what I'm doing right now.
What, you're currently sequestering yourself from
living human beings.
living human beings?
Talking to you.
We're just digital AI-based manifestations of our prior personalities. We're very, very high fidelity simulacra.
How I feel.
Yeah.
I'm living the monastic life over here.
Yeah, you're living completely alone, aren't you?
Yeah.
Fortunately, the roofer keeps coming.
Yeah.
My roofer calls me like every few days just to check in. It's kind of,
How's it holding up? You guys got some precipitation today, right?
yeah, it's been all right.
This better end pretty soon. Otherwise, you're gonna have to break a window or something, get it repaired.
Yeah. You should. Are you? You should probably start reading the Bible or something, or like transcribing the Bible. You should start. Yeah, start like, have a reference copy of the Bible open, and then have a new one, and then do a handwritten calligraphic.
A majuscule to
Yeah.
sort of express your creativity while doing.
Yeah.
It's actually what created Beowulf, right? Is the sort of like, I'm so tired of writing the Bible. It's like,
right.
I know a story. I heard a story in a bar. Let's write that.
I have to say it's quite easy for me to do this, to be alone.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I have to talk to people. I have to have like conversations at times, but I have like a pretty good schedule.
Me too. Especially since, by the way, today is 1 month without smoking.
Oh, nice! Congratulations.
Thank you. But
Alex,
I have reintroduced
I'm still smoking
coffee and
not as much, but
a little bit of wine.
the vino.
So I'm not completely like,
I haven't had a drink in almost a month, just because I've not gotten any.
I've been spending my days slamming the bean juice, and then
me too.
Usually go with a beer or two for later on after dinner to accompany my video gaming.
Before your mulled wine gets there.
Yeah.
Do you just pick some up at the grocery store?
Yes. Yeah.
You ought to look into not that I recommend having liquor delivered, but the service that we use is Drizzly, DRIZLY.
Yeah.
And they do liquor and wine and stuff like that.
I might.
So I got a couple of things just to sort of like make it worth my while, so that I had it.
Though, like I looked on there to order like some scotch, and it's like the delivery costs as much as the scotch does.
Jesus.
Really?
Yeah.
Maybe in Boston it's better.
It might be the partners that they're working with, because I think that it's sort of like seamless, but for liquor stores.
They charge for the delivery big time.
I mean, I tipped well because we were all risking our lives to have this transaction. But
I just figure like right now, like I don't need it, and I'll just wait a little bit, and I'm doing okay.
I honestly don't like alcohol in general. I never have been able to do it other than social.
That's a blessing, my son. That is, few people have that inclination, or not few, but maybe few that I know.
I drink a lot of coffee and I smoke.
I love coffee.
Me too.
I'm glad that I'm drinking coffee again.
I ordered 3 bags of really good coffee from Counterculture, and they screwed up the order, and then they sent me the same order again, and the day they put my second order in, the first order came, and then the second order came, so I got 6 bags of coffee for the price of 3.
Good scheme.
Hell yeah.
I felt like I felt like that was a victory.
You felt like you were walking out of Columbia Library.
with a sack of books
With a
There-
with
big-
a dollar sign on
Is
it.
there,
Yeah.
is there a theme emerging in my personality?
Not conscientious. Low in conscientiousness.
I'm a good
Is
person.
what it is. Yeah, he's a good person.
I just try
He's
to
a
get
good
away
person.
from things. I just like to get
Unless
away.
you're a library.
Yeah. If you're a librarians hate this man. Click here to find out why.
Trust me. Growing up in where I did like the bulletins, like the police bulletins of the things that happen at the library, stealing actually the police at the suburb of Columbus, Ohio, where I grew up. I heard a story about a guy told me this about his older sister. She was underage and talking to a much older man online. Their father found out, called the police, and the police were like, have him set a meeting up at the library. So even the police were like, pervs meet at the library. He won't get wise.
What's the one place we would never go?
So they did, and they arrested this guy. But I just thought it was funny that they were like, have a meeting at the library is the perv meeting space.
Wow.
So believe me, Alex, stealing that book, that's nothing.
You're actually helping out society.
I thought so. If nothing else, I'm helping out myself by being a better citizen.
Although the Columbia Library, they're like draconian. I had a friend visiting, and I had to make photocopies, and he wasn't even allowed in because he was a non-affiliate. I had to leave him out there by the bike rack like he was a dog that I tied up. And they checked my bag, and it was...
Oh yeah.
Do you guys want to talk about this translation? Because it looks like we're probably getting pretty close to an hour.
I think we should.
It's been...
We were just reading this, the trilogy, by Bruno Öijer. So this is a translation that's out on Action Books. Is this backwards, or can you see it regularly?
I can't see anything. I can just see Joe's face.
Oh. Does that help or hurt?
It hurts.
Yeah, no, it helps, and it's not backwards. I can see it front ways.
Okay.
I call Bruno Öijer Dark Garfunkel. He is Wario to Art Garfunkel's Mario.
He looks, but in terms of physique, he's much more Waluigi.
Yeah, well, okay, then I think it's fair for both of them to say that Art Garfunkel is Luigi and he is Waluigi.
Yeah, I think that's much more fair.
Got the
To
Bob Dylan
be fair.
sunglasses on.
Yeah, well, he's definitely an influence. This is Bob Dylan and
I like
Patti Smith.
Punk poets. They're very... Although he's definitely, of the punk poets, he's one of the better ones.
Yeah, that's definitely his lineage. He translated, I think, both Patti Smith and Bob Dylan into Swedish, and sometime in the 70s.
Exhausting.
Yeah.
Bob Dylan into Swedish. Now he's got his pen out. He's doing Murder Most Foul, an 18-minute song about, I don't know, fucking the Kennedy assassination. Almost 60 years after the fact. And by the way, can I say, whatever Bruno comes up with for the translation of the title, Murder Most Foul is awful. I haven't heard the song, but Murder Most Foul sounds like Matlock talking about it was Murder Most Foul.
Murder Most Foul. Oh.
Such a crime. Can you imagine? Anyways, I'm sorry to go on that, but I'm just saying that translating Bob Dylan must be really difficult.
I bet he translated Tarantula, his actual book.
Oh.
he wrote like a weird, surreal book of poems in the '60s.
I didn't know about that.
Unless
Have you
he's
ever-
translating.
Have you read it?
Like, uh,
Have you read it?
It's a
I know
wild one.
you're sort of the resident Dylan head.
I only like his hits.
I'm not. I mean, Michael is the resident Dylan head.
No, I know. I was saying Michael. I don't know how you do that. I only
Oh.
like his hits.
You're not alone. I don't. I don't like love his whole catalog by any means, but I like that he has always done exactly what he wants, basically.
After
Yeah.
Tangled Up in Blue, he's sort of dead to me.
We've heard your position on this.
A lot of people really like say Hurricane.
I like that song.
So when I was reading these poems, I thought of Lorca's idea of duende.
Yeah.
And
Do you want to give a quick duende synopsis?
Duende.
Do you feel like that's
anybody out there want to do it?
duende? Duende want
Anybody out there want?
Well, it's what Lorca says is like a mysterious force that rises out of an absence, whether the absence is death or the absence of a person, and it's it's kind of like I would say it's a theory of poetics. It's a theory of poetics rooted in death, nothingness, and absence.
Sure. Yeah. It's like the quality that electrifies a image or a moment with the knowledge of death, the knowledge of the momentary nature of something.
Well, I don't know if this is something, but I'm sorry, Alex.
No, I was just gonna say he refers to it as a struggle, and in the same part of writing about duende, he refers to Nietzsche and Nietzsche's idea of negation, which is, I mean, that's another hard one to summarize, but it's essentially a struggle towards some kind of clarity and understanding with kind of like Tyler said, with the awareness of death all around. But yeah, so I was thinking of Lorca, and I was thinking of Goya as well, Goya's paintings, the black paintings, because there's in these poems there's like it's like a ghost is writing these poems. There's like the texture and the voice comes out of some kind of like hauntedness or ghostliness.
I was going to say, when I interrupted you earlier, but what I was going to say is that I have a sort of like image synesthesia sometimes when I'm reading, where I see an image that I feel like summarizes the whole thing. Okay, sorry. I get distracted by. Is that him? Is that what Lorca was talking about?
This is the thing that always made me like suspicious of the translation of duende.
Oh, I've had this cereal. Duende cereal. I've had that.
Like there's something about I believe it, but like there's something that doesn't quite get like something must be being referred to slightly differently, right? Because this is like the image pool for duende en español, right? So I don't know, but sorry, didn't mean to entirely interrupt. Oh, isn't that cute? Yeah, maybe more like that.
But everybody knows that duende translates to lawn gnome. Something slightly haunting and always in the back of the mind.
Translates to lawn gnome.
Well, it comes from bullfighting. Duende is a word that its context comes from the picadillos and the matador and the banderillas. I forgetting the terminology, but duende is the mysterious force that keeps all of these parts of the bullfighting event together. Like there's an element of mystery that pervades the different kind of arrangements of the bullfight. And if you've ever seen a bullfight, it's this really like beautiful and violent, like extravagant show where,
like BattleBots.
yeah. Well, I don't know about BattleBots, but maybe.
No, I'm sorry.
Comedy Central's show BattleBots.
Yeah.
Whatever.
You don't think that the BattleBots had duende? Some of those guys they had buzzsaws and they.
Yeah, and you could see the effect of on the controller. The person
Comparatively,
piloting it.
BattleBots was a little bit more disorganized than a bullfight.
Agree to disagree. But
Hey, look.
But also in the sense of like how gargoyles cling to the edge of buildings. And like like Lucy Rockroydo used to always say, like edges and wounds,
can I just say one more thing about BattleBots?
Yes.
It involves poetry. A friend of mine, the poet Elisa Ogi, who's extremely talented, she also told me that she at one point was an advisor to a high school robotics team, and that they were not allowed to include weapons on their robotics team. And I thought that was really disappointing. Because if the kids can build a flamethrower or a buzzsaw, why not? But, this very talented poet, I love her work, by the way. Elisa Ogi, O-G-I is her last name. How many poets do you know that are, yeah, exactly. That's what we're looking at. How many poets do you know that are bullfighters?
These days.
Not very many.
I can open the spreadsheet if you want. But.
And how many of this is barbaric, of course, but less barbaric than bullfighting.
Yeah,
that is true. I went to a bullfight once, and it's pretty fucking violent.
Yeah.
But Lorca, in one of the essays he writes, he talks about that duende is the force that allows the matador to drive the nail into the bull's heart. And I guess I'm getting a little off topic with these translations, but
no.
But there's a kind of pageantry to a bullfight, and then there's this kind of mysterious force that organizes and like drives the pageantry that I felt in these poems. And there's a kind of single ghost at the back of all of these poems, but throughout the three parts, all three of the parts are doing like different dances or these different movements of a larger whole.
Sure. To go off of that, though, when I read it, I sort of had the image throughout the entire thing, like the sort of overarching thing is I felt like they existed in like sort of the light just off of a lit candle. Like for whatever reason, like that was it was just in that space, not in the lit room, but in the space just coming off of the candle. I know that's an abstract way to describe it.
No, I think you're hitting it.
Yeah,
I think and there's also that like there's a quality of like it being like a vision, like a momentary, like like semi-prophetic. It's similar to the way you might describe like Bob Dylan's,
worst songs.
But like
a vision of Joanna.
Yeah,
I love that.
I know. I did that on purpose. But can I bring our attention to one poem in particular?
Yeah.
That I think is describing this. So in the manuscript that we all read, this poem is called "Draft for One of Death's Speeches." But in the Kenyon Review Online, this was published in the May-June 2019 issue, and it was called, in that edition, it was called Notes for One of Death's Speeches. And they have the same translator. So this is, and even in the, at the bottom of the printed Kenyon Review copy, it talks about this book being forthcoming in February of 2020. So a little late. No harm, no foul. But I just wanted to point out, like, just how in terms of the vision quality of it, how it changed. So which one should I read first? Should I read I'm just going to read an excerpt, but should I read the one that was published in the Kenyon Review Online first, or the one in the manuscript?
Sure. Kenyon on first.
Kenyon Review.
First?
Okay.
Yeah.
So this one again is Notes for One of Death's Speeches. Okay, and it begins, I was foretold to be foretold to show a way out of here. I was foretold to deal with things, foretold to press nails of morphine into the flesh of the globe, foretold to see entire continents convulse, foretold to see gigantic body cells go numb, blah, blah, blah. Continues. But this that same passage in the published book, foretold, I was foretold that I would show a way out of here. I was born to take charge, bound to press nails of morphine into the flesh of the globe, bound to see entire continents convulse, bound to see gigantic body cells go numb. So you see how that changed there.
It has a little more momentum, I think, in the second one.
Really?
Change in diction.
Not in a good or bad way. It just starts on a high note.
Sure. Well, that's a decision when you take the anaphora out, or you hit that note less aggressively. It has a different effect. But the first one is more biblical. I would say the structure of it.
Yeah. Whereas the sense you get from the final version is more contemporary, less incantatory. I don't know a lick of Swedish, so it'd be interesting to know.
Well, I do, and let me tell you, the first one. No, I'm just kidding. I don't know any languages. I don't know English, and I won't let that stop me from having an opinion. So.
Yeah.
No, and then one other place I want to point to in that poem, if you jump down to, this is the third stanza, I was gasoline, is how it begins.
Yeah.
In the manuscript, in the book, it was, I was gasoline in the machinery of darkness, the ticking meter between your ribs. In the Kenyon Review version, it's, I was gasoline in the engine of darkness, the ticking meter between your ribs. I mean, me, myself, I'm a simple country Swedish translator, but I prefer engine to machinery.
I can see this section of the book was my favorite, partly because of the texture of the language. There's there's more of a textural quality to just like the visual and the sonic elements of it. And I can see why they would have put machinery. They would have replaced engine with machinery. I don't say that I like it more or less, but visually, I think the word sticks with the texture of the poem. You know, there are long syllabic words. It's a more free verse kind of approach, whereas the other ones, it was a little bit more discreet.
Well, I think you're right, though. I think engine is the right word for a discrete singular piece, but machinery in the context of the book that it's in, and also the trilogy of books, I think works better, which is interesting. And I wonder how much of that comes from revision after the acceptance of a publication, and how much of it comes from looking at the long view of editing and translating not just one book, but 3 books in one.
Yeah. I mean, it does seem like that kind of change would be from a more global perspective, you know?
Exactly.
Like it would consider the integrity of the entire project, as opposed to like it doesn't seem like a line edit, you know. It seems more of like how can this better approach you know, some of the habits of the project, and how can that better answer the questions of the project, you know.
Mm-hmm. And can I just say that the first book, While the Poison Acts, is such a good title.
Yeah, that's that's definitely my favorite title in there. My preference, I think, is for The Fog of Everything, that book in here, which is the third book.
Yeah.
I mean, title wise, I prefer While the Poison Acts, but
Sure.
yeah,
that's sort of like I have a dream title that I will never be able to use for anything, so I'll just say it. But I want to call a poem someday. I thought these were supposed to be ink blots. And While the Poison Acts is, like, to me, like in conversation with that. But yeah, The Fog of Everything.
Have any of you guys ever read any Osa Berg, spelled Aseberg?
No.
With deer.
Osa Bari? Yeah, With Deer. Or
I've heard about it. I mean, I've heard of
Transfer Fat is another one.
Transfer Fat.
Yeah.
My biography in verse.
It's the option at chase.com. So yeah, but yeah, I feel like this, like, a lot was learned by, I mean, I don't know enough about Swedish poetry in general, but I get similar vibes for some of the texture of Osa Berg's some of her translated works to this. There's one poem in particular that I was reading that I think stood out. Page 199 in my copy here.
Let me figure out how the fuck I'm gonna do this. Page 199. Hold on, I'm coming. Hold on, I'm coming. Hang on. Here we are.
Smoke.
Yes.
Backs up. Smoke from all
that's I won't do that.
Okay, class, only one. I can, one person reads at a time.
Okay.
Smoke backs up.
Backs up. I won't do it anymore.
All right. Popcorn Chris.
Smoke backs up. Smoke from all that's dead and sour. Our old winters and summers crowd together, hanging on the same line among clothespins and dust. You can tell that no one arrived in time. This house died alone a long time ago. Remains of sunlight crackle under my shoes like dry wilted twigs, and there's no trace of those who once lived here. Just a feeling that they have let their bodies loose in the darkness, thrown themselves like spears into the sky, straight out into space.
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah, it's really good. Yeah, that's really good. I think one of my favorite things about this book is I couldn't really get into the first section as much, but the second and the third sections were like, and the lineation and the, like I said, the textures and the language and the kind of ominous hauntedness of it was, I could dig it.
Yeah, I think he needs a little more space to get his meaning out. The sort of fragmentary quality of While the Poison Acts. I didn't think, I wasn't as enchanted by that as I was the stuff from the other two sections.
Yeah. I think from a historical perspective, it was like a big shock at the time for what he was like previously doing, because he was mostly known as like a performance artist, really, and like performing like these like really like anarchistic, avant-garde kind of violent screeds.
Yeah.
I will put a firecracker in the president of the The Prime Minister's portrait.
I'm sure Swedish anarchists are very serious, Chris.
Bruno's crazy, dude. He's the Prime Minister of the whole country. Dude.
You wouldn't deface a natural portrait, would you?
No, I'm just saying.
Well, the first ones feel like objects, and the last two, the first section feels like the poems feel like languagey, discrete objects, and the second and the third feel more vocal. Like
they feel the first ones feel like recovered, almost like from a bottle from an island.
Like found things that are yeah.
Like for me, having loved the so-called punk poets of American fame, like Jim Carroll, Patti Smith,
Johnny Rotten,
not so much, but like the notion of poetry in terms of punk seemed sort of like, for me, like it took a minute to absorb how you could reconcile poetry with a kind of taste for chaos.
Well, the other thing too, I'm sorry.
It was kind of a misunderstanding on my point of what like the intent within like a punk lifestyle or like a punk attitude towards poetry, like how it could take different forms.
Yeah.
Well, it's also like a chicken and egg thing because the punk stuff, the early punk stuff came from poetry, and then bore in like what most people know as punk bears little resemblance to like Horses, for instance.
Yeah.
The album, or what Patti Smith was doing, or what Jim Carroll was doing. Although paradoxically, the Jim Carroll band is kind of later punk, but Jim Carroll is punk in a 1971-72 way, which is really more like Velvet Underground-y stuff.
Right.
So it also is partly like what that definition is, because we've seen some punk poets who are very much like the Ramones punk poets that are like, I ate a bagel on Avenue A. It was,
the narrative of punk.
Yeah, exactly. But yes, this is very much like, this is more like 1973 than 1978, for instance. I don't know if you would agree with that.
Well, and I keep thinking of like trance, like in the way that Bob Dylan was like, especially in the 60s, writing those, vision-like songs, amphetamine fueled. It was like you entrance yourself, you disorganize yourself in the Rimbaud way, in order to kind of tap into the frequencies of your social and personal moment, and kind of divine yourself past it into another sphere or something. But like the kind of gloom and hauntedness of Öiyer's work seems, or maybe not gloom, but the hauntedness for sure.
Well, gloom, I mean, especially if you watch some of the videos on YouTube of his of the musical accompaniment.
Yeah.
Which is goth with a capital G.
Oh yeah, it's very very much goth. Yeah. But
Baja.
It's different than Dylan's aims per se.
Yeah. It seems like I haven't read anything from the earlier stuff other than what was mentioned in the afterword by Johannes Göransson. But it seems like there's a very striking difference between, like, because he was part of like a avant-garde performance group called Vesuvius, and that seemed much more like manifesto oriented and estranged
and mafia oriented too. It's where Tony and Artie Bucco, they were all at Vesuvius until it burned down. But then there was another one. It was called Vesuvius 2, I think. Everything goes back to The Sopranos. Okay.
Everything goes back to this thing of ours.
Can you fill my hand first, please?
It's off camera.
Anyways, all right, folks. I gotta go.
I gotta
Yeah.
go too.
Yeah, I think we probably did a long one. It doesn't feel like it, but looking at the
Yeah.
time, my guess
No,
is
but-
we just did a long one.
Yeah.
Well,
Bye.
Bye.
farewell.